There are certain people who are born into this particular lifestyle and they can't find their way out. So if you're born poor, you're generally going to live poor for the rest of your life. There are people that are exceptions to this rule that are capable of getting themselves out of it, but for most people, when they're born into this cycle, they stay in the cycle and continue to feed it. So you have people who are born into a family with crime or various poverty. They usually will grow up poor criminals. It's a shame that it happens, but it constantly happens. It's a cycle that feeds itself.
I figured if I can give a kid a pair of sneakers that he can wear and be proud of, then I don't have to worry about him maybe trying to steal it from a store or maybe robbing somebody to get money to buy them from a store. If I could help one kid, that's one less kid that we have to put in the system, and then you know how that goes. It'd be like a reoccurring thing. So that's why I go every 2 months. We just try to clear out our stuff and try to give it to the kids so that way they don't feel like they have to go out and take it, as opposed to, here, I got it for you. If you need it, here it is. Don't go out and take it. All you do is ask. I always tell them to be open with me, and the more open you are, the better I can help you.
I've had a student in the past in which they stole and they got in trouble. So then they had court issues, and then those court issues in making meetings for attending the court dates and following through with that, those court dates and times are set during school hours. So now kids are being pulled out of school to attend those.
I think in Broome County there's a lot of focus on the urban area because it is so population dense in comparison with the rural areas. I think it would be very beneficial for the rural areas for politicians to start considering the county as a whole and think about putting resources and allocating economic opportunities to the rural areas. I think that would be very beneficial to people living in those areas as well as for the county.
Here in Broome County, it's a little different from my outtakes from New York City where I was raised at. You could tell who, doesn't have it as well as others. You do have some type of help. There may not be enough for certain people, but there is things out there for people here.
My name is Autumn Loke. I am the Student Assistance Coordinator for the Liberty Partnership Program for the Binghamton School District. Students come to school hungry. Some students, they only eat at school. To me, it's important to keep a snack cabinet that's filled with granola bars and Pop-Tarts and cups of soup and things like that because they're hungry and they'll come in and get snacks to take home. And I think that knowing that dad is sick, mom's not working, they've got multiple children, and they need that. The teenage children are the ones who are working and working extra hours at work, and their academics are being negatively affected, but they have to work so that they can help take care of home and help pay the bills and provide. So giving that extra food is huge. They'll come to school and sometimes the first thing they do is come see me. So they're already late to school because either they don't have transportation, whatever reason, they're late to school, and they're hungry. So they're coming to see me to get some food, and there's choices to be made. Do you take the food into class, eat it, and be disruptive? Class, maybe you have a lab and you shouldn't be eating. So it's making that decision, okay, the student's hungry, so are we gonna keep them so we can feed them and they're gonna miss class? Are they gonna take it in there? Are they gonna cause a disruption and then be removed from class? You have students that are hungry, so they are leaving school and they're not eating. So they're not focused on doing their work at home. They're focused on, okay, maybe if I go to my friend's house, I can eat, I can get something to eat. Maybe if I stay here, maybe if I go with them after school and I stay until a little after dinner time, I'll be offered a plate. So they don't have time to do their work, the time that they need to do it.
My name is Emily Hotchkiss. I work for Rural Health Network of South Central New York. I'm a population health coordinator for Broome County, and what that means is I work on the Population Health Improvement Program, which focuses on health disparities and the social determinants of health across a 5-county region. So we look at things like housing, poverty, education, transportation, and how that relates to people's health. I also work on Rural Broome Counts, which is a needs assets assessment of rural Broome County, which has focused in its first year on 3 challenges and 3 positive things that are going on in rural Broome County. This area is experiencing a lot of rural poverty because of lack of economic opportunities, lack of access to jobs, lack of access to resources. They do have good access to education, and that is something that people talk about all the time here. However, once someone is educated, there isn't somewhere for them to be employed. In rural areas, there aren't a lot of jobs, so it's really necessary to have transportation, and public transportation doesn't do a great job of serving people in rural areas. So it's necessary to have your own transportation in those areas, and that can be very costly when we are dealing with roads that aren't well maintained and winter weather conditions. So I think as the economy is in decline here in Broome County, I think the rural areas are specifically impacted because a lot of the opportunities are more in the urban areas, and people who are in rural areas have a harder time accessing supports and accessing educational opportunities as well as the actual jobs themselves.
My name is Willie Fan. I am the Liberty Partnership Coordinator here at Union Cut High School. Basically what I do is provide the students with opportunities to succeed academically and social-emotionally, and help them also to get in the workforce and through their first year of college. I think if we could find a way to actually go into the impoverished areas, like really just go into the community. It's almost like, okay, the impoverished area is here, but we'll have this thing over here because we're kind of like, I really want to go there. I want to help you, but I really don't want to go there and help you, you know what I'm saying? So here's the help, but you got to come over here to get it, you know? And it's like, if you're impoverished, if you don't have transportation, how are you going to get there to get that help if you're impoverished here? So we need to, like I said, we need to go in. Like I remember we did a great program at the beginning of this year with Liberty. We partnered with all the Liberty schools and we went to Carlisle. We did a clothing drive in Carlisle, and we were right in the community. We went right into the Carlisle Center there and had clothes to where the community didn't have to come but out of their house, across the street and into the center, and they have all these different clothes to choose from, you know. This way they didn't really have to go anywhere, but they still got the help that they needed. So if we can do more things like that, of that nature, you know, I think that would have a good impact on some of the impoverished areas that we have in Broome County.
There needs to be more free clothing giveaways. They have the Salvation Army, but you have to pay for it. And sometimes people don't have even that small amount of money to pay if they have a large family. That adds up pretty quickly. Getting public assistance from social services is not paying for your kids who are continually growing, changing sizes several times during the year. They don't give you money to go out and go school shopping for your children to get them clothes. They don't give you money to get new sneakers for your kids when they wear through the old pair. They don't give money to change like every season when your school clothes are changing. They don't give you money for that. There's lots of families in the community, lots of kids that are going to school and they don't have seasonally appropriate clothing. Seeing students that come to school and they don't have coats, seeing students that come to school and it will be November, mid-November, and they're still wearing flip-flops because they don't have shoes.
The Southern Tier Homeless Coalition gets funding from the Housing and Urban Development federal agency, and part of the mandate is to do a point-in-time count of sheltered and unsheltered homeless individuals. They do a great job canvassing the urban areas to look for people who are unsheltered and obviously doing the sheltered counts. But previously they hadn't been really looking at the rural homeless population. So at the end of the month of January, we went out to food banks and community meals and clothing banks to talk to people who are accessing those services in rural areas to try to get a better understanding of what rural homelessness looks like. And what we found was there weren't a lot of people who fit the traditional definition of homeless. However, we found many examples of people who are doubling up, living with the grandparents, with their children, so their grandchildren, families that aren't related, they're just friends or acquaintances acquaintances, taking care of their own, living together, because there isn't another resource in the rural community to go to a shelter. So rural homelessness, people tend to couch surf or live with other families, and it's harder to see because people aren't out on the street, but it's definitely happening, and that's a stretch of resources. People don't necessarily have a lot of income in the rural areas, so when they have to have two families under one house, it gets challenging for a lot of people, so they are stretched for maintaining their grocery bill and other utilities. And we see it a lot among youth in the rural areas. The rural school districts are doing a good job of tracking young individuals who are couch surfing. They're doing the best they can to follow up with them, make sure that they're getting to school, make sure that the buses are going out to get them if they're living in Deposit, even though they're enrolled in Whitney Point. They really try to maintain that continuity of their education as best as possible when they're doing couch surfing. But a lot of times in the rural areas, people become homeless temporarily for a season because their homes aren't well insulated, the pipes burst, and they need to go live with grandma for a while because their trailer doesn't have the proper insulation to withstand the cold temperatures, and they can't live in that house because of heating or lack of water during the cold winter months. So a lot of the times during this season, the winter season, people are couch surfing or moving homes a lot. And that's what rural homelessness looks like. It's not a lot of people out on the street or camping in tents. We do have people who are living in their cars from time to time, but a lot of the times there are members of the community or family members who take them in temporarily to help them out while their housing is unsuitable.
I think that there is an issue that we have a lot of students, a lot of young teens that are homeless. They're couch surfing for whatever reasons. They're not living with their parents, and they are couch surfing from place to place. A lot of families that I work with, at some point during the year, they have no electricity, no NYSEG. You know, students will come in and they're stressed out because, well, we don't have no electricity, we have no lights, you know, it's dark, there's no TV, there's nothing to do, we have to go home and sit in the dark. You know, in Broome County, you know, 3/4 of the year it gets dark early, and students are struggling with that. And it's not just students, their entire family is struggling with that. But, you know, in my particular role in being an advocate for students and trying to help them succeed and help prepare them with the skills necessary to be successful throughout high school and then on into college and the workforce, those issues that are related to poverty also impact how successful they can be in school and with their academics. And I know that, you know, sometimes it's scary for them. A lot of our students don't like to talk about it and are not comfortable talking with people in the school. They're afraid that if they tell someone that their NYSEG was shut off, that they're gonna report it. And then they're gonna have people coming into their homes. They're afraid to tell people that they don't have no food. I have a family that I've worked with in the past that mom wasn't working, but they were engaged in illegal activities. They were afraid to tell people because they didn't want to have social services come in and turn their world upside down. And that's from their perspective. So as us being mandated reporters, we have to make those calls and we have to do that. But there's a lot that's going on. There's a lot of issues that are taking place, and there's a lot of struggles that our students are facing, and they're not telling people because they're scared.
The 3 challenges that were identified by community residents were poverty, rural poverty specifically, access specifically to healthcare services, and transportation. In rural Broome County, they had the highest percentage of people driving alone to work, and that was higher than all of the surrounding rural counties as well. So what we can infer from that is having access to your own private transportation is crucial to having employment in rural Broome County, because there aren't opportunities in those areas, so people have to be able to travel and use their own transportation because the public transportation modes aren't serving their needs to get access employment.
A lot of people they don't have access to, let's say, the internet, a mailbox where they can pick something up and look at it, or if they can pick something up and look at it and then cannot read what it says, you know. So I think we have to do a better job at just reaching out to our community on a not a cookie cutter scale. So, you know, one way is not gonna fix it for everybody. You know, there's many different types of people out there. I think we have to come with many different types of approaches. I don't think one approach is just gonna solve it. You have to reach people where they're at. Like, so different different opportunities like that I don't think people really know about because they're not, like I said, they're not educated enough to do that, or they just don't have access to different things that will help you find the ability to be able to navigate the different resources out there. And they are out there, but if you don't know how to navigate through them, it's almost like them not even existing because you wouldn't be able to find them anyway. So if we can do a better job at finding ways to get the information to people, bringing people in and not making them feel like charity cases, I think that would help us in Broome County as well as anywhere else.
So currently there are weatherization programs that serve individuals who are low income and have homes that in need of repair. However, there's a long waiting list for that, and there's a certain limit on the amount of money that they can spend on any house. NYSEG has the Home Energy Assistance Program, or the HEAP program, which helps people who are having trouble paying for their energy bills or their heating bills during the winter season. This helps prevent them from having to seek other housing. It helps prevent pipes from bursting, and it's a very helpful program for people to stay in their homes during the winter and the cold months. I know a number of different agencies have emergency funding for people to stay in their homes longer, but ideally we'd like to find solutions that are not emergency solutions, prevent them from having to access these resources. So making sure that people are budgeting, having financial literacy, being able to budget, getting enough income to be able to pay for these things themselves, and ideally becoming self-sufficient and being able to support themselves and their families. A lot of people feel like it's too expensive to take their kid to childcare, so they rather stay at home rather than seeking employment because the cost of childcare is more than they could actually earn working a full-time job.
All right, my name is Taisha Jewell. I'm a health center assistant at Family Planning. We see all different types of people. I've seen as young as 12 to as old as 69. If you have a mom who's like, oh no, you're not keeping that baby, or there's no room here for a baby, and they may generally want to keep her, or they don't know what to do, then they're like, all right, so what am I gonna do? I'll go live with a friend. And then after a while, it becomes a burden to the friend and her mom. So then they're like, all right, I'll go to the next place. So it's like they're just trying to find a place to fit in. And they do have shelters and the YMCA and stuff like that will, take them in, but because of their age, they're still minors. They're still under their parents. So it's hard for a lot of teens, who are pregnant. They don't know what to do. They're like, oh my God, like what do I do now?
Sometimes the kids get branded because of their parents, and when I say that, no kid asks to be born into a bad situation. It's not like they say, hey, yeah, put me in that situation. I would love to grow up not being able to eat, or being abused, So yes, the kids are not asked to be born, but they are here and they are people. And us being one of the most powerful nations in the world, we should be able to provide shelter, food for any one of us in the United States. I mean, sometimes I feel like we even help out more out of the United States or out of the country than we do our own country at times. And that to me is not a problem, but I always say we're trying to solve problems in other countries as far as poverty goes, but we have an issue here in America. Like, let's work on this so that we can better help the other countries. Because it's like I always tell people, if you don't love yourself, it's not possible for you to love somebody else. And that's all I'm saying. If you can't take care of your own country, it's kind of hard to take care of others. Even though the kids are not supposed to be here, still help them out because they haven't been asked to be born. And it's not the kids' fault that their parents didn't do the right things or weren't educated enough to find out how to do the right things as well. And I think that's the education part of it is a big component, because if their parents never taught their parents and so on and so forth, like where is it going to stop? Where is somebody going to fix it? I mean, at some point somebody has to come in and break that chain of events that continuously happen. And if it doesn't, then you're just gonna have a repeat of generation and repeat of generation. So that was one of the biggest things too with me, is that I looked at, again, my parents, and I said, I know I don't want this for me, and I know for sure I don't want this for my kids. So that was my motivation to break that chain, But yeah, so you just wanna make sure you stay motivated to break that chain of events. I kept telling myself everything is temporary, Nothing really lasts forever, and if you don't like your circumstances, you got to do the best that you can to try to change it, And I always tell myself, and I tell my kids, if it's something that you can control, by all means, do that, control it. But if it's something that's out of your control, you pray about it and you let it go. Don't sit and stress on it and stress on it when something you really can't control. Like I said, we have to stay positive and just continue to want to reach out and help people. Don't get so closed-minded and so caught up in your own situation that you don't realize that other people are going through stuff too. Just the hard times, you know, some people just go through some hard things, and sometimes your parents lose their jobs, or even sometimes in death, you know, that can change the whole dynamic of a family, you know. If mom or dad was the provider and mom or dad all of a sudden dies, now it's like, okay, now we have to, you know, fill that void there, you know, so.
I can tell you from my own experience here, a lot of people are getting sick. There's a lot of parents who have had recently been diagnosed with cancer. They're going through treatment, they're not able to work. You have some that are getting disabled for whatever reason. They're getting hurt, they're being disabled, they can't go back and work their regular job. You have some parents who have been let go for whatever reason. There's downsizing, there's been a lot of businesses closing, and so people are losing their jobs. And then qualifications have increased. There's a lot of parents who are not qualified. And then just being, you know, kind of the obvious is some of them have children that the cost of daycare, some families can't afford it. And it's like, okay, well, if mom goes out and works, then she's going to be working to pay for the daycare. So it doesn't make sense. Why are you working if you're just going to pay the daycare? Because they need daycare. We have some of our students that leave during the day to go watch the sibling. So they're missing out on school, but they have to play that role and watch the sibling so that the parent can go to work.
If you are relying on public transportation, you would have to get on the bus, take your kids to the child care center, and then get back on and go to your own workplace. And just coordinating all of those schedules, if you don't have access to transportation, is really challenging. Child care itself is very, very cost prohibitive. A lot of people feel like it's too expensive to take their kid to child care, so they'd rather stay at home rather than seeking employment, because the cost of childcare is more than they could actually earn working a full-time job.
My mom was a single mother with 6 of us. You got a single mother with 6 kids with no transportation, and she needs help, and you're telling her to come across town. I mean, that's asking a lot. I mean, I get it, because people say, well, nobody told her to have all those kids. I get it, but she didn't have all those kids by herself. You know, somebody had those kids with her, and that somebody is obviously not there, but it leaves the burden on the parent. And I'm not just saying it's only moms, but the parent there. And that's a lot to ask of a parent, to come across town to get the help that she needs without having the adequate transportation or even education to navigate to that, to the help spot.
Well, here I know that you can go to your local Department of Social Service office, which is right in Binghamton on Main Street, and they do help with temporary assistance for needy families, food stamps, Medicaid, if you qualify. I believe a lot of people up here do qualify, and I know a lot of people do get help. Myself personally also, I do get food stamps and Medicaid. They do child care assistance, because I have 2 kids that go to daycare, and they do pay a big portion of it, and I do make a payment, you know, towards it also. But I know there's child care assistance, temporary assistance, food stamps, Medicaid, and they actually give you referrals out to the, you know, other places that could be a need. Like if you need clothes, they have Catholic Charities. If you need formula, you could go there also. They have mothers and babies. So it's a lot of good programs around in this local area that can help.
Working with families, or even some students who are 18, they might still be in school and they find themselves where they're on their own, and encouraging them and getting them over to the Department of Social Services to get supports. It's telling them, don't look at it as it's long term, and don't look at it like you have to explain yourself to anybody. Look at it that you are using a service that is in place and meant to help you, and when you don't need it anymore, you won't need it anymore. But until then, it's there for you to use it. And so it's kind of just helping them shift their thinking, because I think sometimes the media keeps stigmas and the negative attitudes going about people who receive assistance. And then people start to even kind of internalize that negative image, and they start to look at themselves as being one of the stereotypes that are out there.
My name is Dylan Card. I'm 18 years old, and I was born and raised in Appalachian, New York, outside of Binghamton. I'm just freshly graduated out of school, my first year out of high school, and I've worked 2 jobs, one in Pennsylvania at a gas station and currently a New York gas station. You have to have some type of food program for your kids if you have kids, or for yourself, some type of money program to pay for the bus or pay for your gas or pay for your repairs on your car you may or may not even have. Unless you've seen it firsthand, you have no way of commenting either way.
I used to hear coworkers say, all the people that are receiving food stamps, they're just lazy and they're this and that. And I would sit back and I would listen to them, and I'm thinking, man, I work like 52 hours a week, and I said, and I get food stamps, not because I'm lazy, it's just because I can't afford to have insurance and then pay all my bills and then provide, food as well. So the food stamps is like a supplement, and I said, but even with that, it still doesn't buy like diapers or clothes or, underwear, stuff like that. So when I would hear them say that, I was like, man, they have a really wrong perception of what DSS is or food stamps are. And I get it, there's those select few that abuse the system, but there's a lot of people that actually are working hard and just still, even though they work as hard as they can, it's still just not enough. Yeah, that is a big misconception that a lot of people just don't understand. It's not all about people being lazy, it's just about circumstances. And trust me, if I had a choice not to be on them, I would rather not be on them and use them, let them be for somebody who actually really needs them the most. But I was one of the people that needed it at that time. So yeah, and you're not living a high life, I can tell you that right now. You're not living a high life.
You don't get that much money on social services. They don't give you much. So what's the high life? That comes back to, I'm paying for this, I'm paying for that. Okay. Social services might give them a public assistance, cash award for toiletries, things like that. But it's not enough because you still have kids coming to our personal needs closet in school. Students will come and get those small things. They don't give money for, when you have kids that are doing great and the students are participating in like band or orchestra and they have these band trips. They don't give money so you can send in $75 so your child can go on the band trip. They don't give money for students who are in their senior year and they have their caps and gowns to purchase, which is, it's $50. That's a lot of money. And so some of our students come, wait throughout the entire year. And at the end of the year, they don't have a cap and gown unless, you have a teacher or someone who's going to sponsor and buy that cap and gown for the student. So there's a lot more to it than just that basic living. My tax dollars are paying for your rent. Okay, so your tax dollars are going to a program that is helping someone who is in need with very basic housing, which everyone should be entitled to. But then it comes back to, again, perspectives.
Like I said, it doesn't buy clothes, it don't put gas in your car if you have one, it doesn't pay your electricity. It's not like it gives you access to free cable for the rest of your life. It's still work. So yeah, it's not about laziness. I always go back to circumstances. It has a lot to do with your circumstances.
If you think about welfare can be any social program that's offered to help an individual. Public school, it's a welfare program. It's free. You're not paying to get your education. It's a free program. And people qualify. That's why people are at public school. So the same thing with like food stamps, Medicaid. It's a support that's there for you. It's just another social welfare program to make sure that you're given the support that you need. It's not a handout. It's not they're taking care of you. It's a program that's there for you to better yourself. I had Medicaid, I had food stamps, and is it uncomfortable because you get judged? Of course it's uncomfortable. Nobody likes to go in the grocery store, have someone behind them kind of looking at them or giving them dirty looks because of what you have. But food stamps doesn't define who you are, and it doesn't mean that you're gonna get food stamps or you're gonna be on Medicaid for the rest of your life. Use it as an opportunity to position yourself to get where you wanna be, to help elevate you to the next level. Use it as a stepping stone to move up, and don't be ashamed of it. We are paying, and everything we do, all of our tax money goes in. And some people, well, I pay, my tax money goes to their food stamps. Well, not really. A small percentage of tax dollars goes to food stamps. I think that it's more about some people feel a little privileged when they are in a position where they're not needing it, but you never know when you're gonna need it.
You have the people who's out there generally trying to, make a living for their family, going to work every single day or looking for a job every single day. I think that's the hardest part of being on the poverty level, because I was there. When I first moved up here, it took me like 2 months, and I was every single day looking for a job out there, just trying to find something, then getting denied here and getting denied there, and going on an interview in the pouring rain and getting denied, going on 2 and 3 interviews and then like, oh no, you're not fit for the job. So like a lot of people after that, they're like, all right, whatever, I give up. I'll just turn to temporary assistance, see what they could do. And for the most part, they do help a lot of people, and you will get your rent paid and things like that. that, but you know, that only lasts but for so long. Like, what is really my point? Like, I'm out there, I'm looking for stuff, and I can't find it.
More companies are leaving the area, more people are just getting into this poverty cycle they can't break. Crime keeps going up, drug use is going up, all side effects of just the problems that poverty brings. People use drugs because they don't want to be in this world anymore, but they don't want to just completely abandon life. But then you have people who either can't work because of illness or body problems, that can't get their health care, so they can't get back into the workforce. So they take unemployment, which is barely livable, welfare, which is barely livable, or if they're lucky, they can work minimum wage, which isn't livable.
My mom always taught us to always treat people the way you want to be treated. Never get too high on yourself, because if you start to come down, that's the same people you'll see coming down when you're going up. And I've had mentors just trying to keep me on the right track as far as being a good person, you know, and to know that, you know, struggles don't last forever, you know, and there's ways out, you know. And just the different coaches and people in my life, you know, they all gave me a little piece of something. And I took a little piece of all of them and just kind of created who I wanted to be as far as the kind of person that I wanted to be. And it helped me get to the point that I am now, you know. My mom, growing up, unfortunately, she was into drugs. You know, my dad wasn't always there. You know, I love him and we're good now. But growing up, he wasn't there. And with mom being into drugs, it was like you could go either way. You could go this way or that way. And I knew that I wanted to be better than my parents. You know, my mom, I think she graduated 8th grade. My dad, maybe 5th grade or 6th grade. But I knew that that's not what I wanted for my life. So looking at their lives and looking at our situations sometimes, I said, all right, I have to be better. So I just had it set in my mind that I'm going to be better. I don't necessarily know how yet, but I'm going to be better. So when I actually got, you know, the opportunity to meet people who were in better positions, and then they were like, oh, I can talk to you and show you how to get this and that, then it works, you know. And that's another thing. You have to be open to change too. You have to be open to criticism, you know. You have to be open to be taught, you know, and open-minded to things as well.
A lot of times people who are in poverty, families, children growing up in poverty, they're not seeing directly in their immediate families, in their immediate daily lives. They're not being exposed to people who are in college classrooms, graduating from high school, graduating from college, graduating from grad school. They're not seeing that as much as, you know, middle, upper class families, children that are growing up in those families.
I live in rural New York. People here don't go to college. It's just that simple. They go to high school, get their degree, they either go into the workforce or they go into the military. They don't go to college because they know at this stage in life, at this point in time, there's no sense in it. You're not going to do something that's going to cost you more than it's going to give you back. When you're coming out of college with debt and there's not a guarantee that you're going to get a job, then you're going to think, well, what's the point?
If we can reach youth when they're very young and we can help teach them, you can do it. You are amazing and you are special and you can be anything you want to be. And it can help break the cycle of generational poverty.
If a kid can go to school confidently and be like, well, if I keep sticking with this and I can get my dream job, I'll be able to live comfortably for the rest of my life. So they have this drive in them. They want to go to school. They want to stay in high school, want to get their diploma, want to go to college, want to get their diploma. Because the problem now, especially in the towns around me, is a lot of kids are just not going to school because they're like, well, there's really no point. I'm not going to get anything out of it. And I've met a lot of kids like that have dropped out because they're just like, there was no point in me staying in school. I wasn't ever going to go to college. So they either drop out and do nothing with their lives, or they drop out and go to a trade school or something like that. They just weren't staying in school. They were learning other ways to make money because school wasn't an option for them.
So it's important to stress education and make sure that our youth, especially youth who are in poverty, are being exposed to education, but to also the fields that they're interested in. Colleges. I think it's very important to take our youth on college tours, have them participate in job shadowing days so they can see what's available to them. Have college students mentor them, you know, come in and talk to them and say, you know, like, look, this is what I was. I came up just like you and look where I'm at now.
A lot of kids I know went into the military because then they get their college paid for, go over to the Middle East, fight for a little while, and come back just to get an opportunity to go to college. They're willing to put their life on the line and potentially die there just to be able to go to college back here. There's something a little dystopian about that way that works. Anyone who says that that's a fair trade is ill. I think that you shouldn't have to have kids that are growing up and thinking, well, the only chance I have is fighting for my country just so I can come back and fight for myself. I mean, if they want to, they should be able to, and they should have that choice, but they shouldn't have to be forced into that corner in the first place. That should be a personal decision. Be like, well, I can either go to college, just get a job, or go in the military. They shouldn't have to just do it to do the other two. Education is the most valuable tool a person can have to get themselves out of a situation that they're in. That being said, if you're born poor, unless you're capable of getting all of your college paid for by the state, you're not going to college. It's going to cost you too much, and you're going to come out with massive piles of debt that's only going to keep getting bigger as time goes on, unless you're capable of getting into a job quickly and get it paid off before it grows.
You know, there's lots of different issues, you know, as to why parents aren't working. For whatever reason they're not working, it's kind of irrelevant as to why they aren't working, right? Parents not working, so what can we do about it? If they're not working, let's provide resources if they're able to work. If they don't take advantage of those resources to help find employment or stable employment, we still kind of have that obligation, I think, to support the students and the kids, the youth, in getting them what they need.
Here at Family Planning, we do go out to schools, have education sessions and talk. I think more should be done. I think a little bit of everybody should get, involved in trying to keep teens away from getting pregnant so quick, and just, letting them be kids. I think there should be more events like, after school clubs, drama or anything like that kids like to do. And I think that will keep them busy, and out the streets, and they'll appreciate, their community more because there's things for them to do. I feel if we had more things to do, like maybe teen night or like an after school center for teens, that they would, engage with more kids and it'll be fun for them. Schools should have more sexual education classes with them, but, like our company or like other little teen centers, I think that they should go out more to the community and reach the younger kids and let them know about their bodies, how to protect themselves, how to say no to bad choices.
I wish that there would have been a program like the Liberty program, or, Binghamton High School also has youth development. I wish that there was programs like that for me when I was young, because I felt like nobody knew whether I was there or not. I would act out. I'd act out in school, so nobody, was like, oh, forget her. There was nobody that said, well, wait a second, she's angry, she's acting out, what's going on? Like, something else is there, like, it's not personal. And there was never any of that. There was never anyone when I was couch surfing and staying here and staying there and sleeping over here. There was nobody that, I felt that I could talk to, that I could trust, that could say, here's these opportunities, here's options that are available. Let's go and let's talk to the teen transitional living program. Let's do that. Or even creating a plan. There was never any of that for me. So it was definitely difficult, and as capable as I was, I didn't go away to college right after high school. I didn't know that I could. My thought was, okay, well, where am I gonna live? Like, I'll go away, but then during breaks and I come back, where am I gonna go? So it was more about, okay, let me just stay here because I have something stable, like a stable living environment right now, but where am I gonna go when I come back? So that's where I wish that I had someone that was like, no, you can do it. Like, you can do it, and we're gonna help you, and we're gonna be there for you. And, it wasn't there.
Being able to get in your own vehicle and drive to an urban area is a big part of being able to get out of poverty and also being able to maintain your own health and wellness. Expanding different types of transportation options would definitely be a boon to these different areas. Exploring alternative transportation, welfare to work models, or carpooling, van pooling methodologies to make sure people are getting to the job opportunities.
I think they should raise minimum wage a little bit so people have more spending power. They're able to pay for their house, pay their rent, pay their food, so then they don't need to go on SNAP or some type of food assistance program, or to go on through Medicaid. They can get their own insurance.
There's people out here that are hurting, so sometimes when you think your situation is bad, think about Joe, who's trying to figure out when his next meal is going to be, or if he's going to be warm tonight, or if tonight somebody's going to mess with him or tell him to move from his spot, So yeah, it's things like that. It's just to make sure we stay positive and remember that we are the most powerful nation in the world, and act accordingly.